Today, what we're going to do is go over Quilt Worktable. I brought you back to the beginning screen again because there's two ways to get to the Quilt Worktable. You can actually hit Design a Quilt from Scratch, or you can go to Quilt Worktable directly. Neither one of them makes much of a difference. Design a Quilt from Scratch might just clear out what's there, but it brings you to this work table right away. When you're working in this work table, which is the same as this one right here, it brings up new, you start out with the tab New Quilt. It gives you the opportunity to go through the different layouts up at the top or in the layout library to pick what type of layout you would like. It defaults to the horizontal layout right here. And I'm going to go through these different layouts just briefly. To an on point, a variable point, baby blocks, variable blocks, horizontal strip, which is a little different than some of the others. In horizontal strip, each one of these strips can be changed to whatever size you want and put multiple blocks in here as well. So if you were designing a row by row quilt, you could have each of these rows be a different size.
Would you use that panel if you were doing a panel in the middle?
I would not. I would use custom quilt for that because then you can make your panel be the exact size that it is and you can tweak everything around it with the custom quilt. Horizontal strip and vertical strip are basically what they say. They're strip quilts. So if you were wanting to make something that was row by row, or if you had fabric and you were just chunking it one at each time, and you wanted to put some applique on top of it, you could change these to be the sizes of the strips of fabric you're putting in your strip quilt. Those are the two main thoughts I had as to what you could use strip quilts for. And you can go horizontal or you can go vertical. And you can make it as many of these rows that you want, as many of these strips that you want. One patch, which is a one patch type. Now, you don't just have to use hexie. They do have other styles of one patch. There is also a one patch photo patchwork. And this layout is good for when you want to take a picture having a different color in each one of these blocks. And in the end, it looks like a picture. And like it says over here, the photo patchwork layout is just like the one patch layout, except for EQ will help you fill in the patches with color from a photo, creating a mosaic style quilt. When you click on the double arrow to the right or the double arrow to the left, it then moves you to the right or to the left. Custom set is the last one that they have in here that's in your quick choice of layouts. Now, they have a library of layouts as well. So if you don't see what you want here, there are hundreds of other layouts here that you can go through and pick what you might want to try and find. Even some that are not traditionally, it's like one big blocks that they give you to choose from. So there's lots of different ways to set up layouts for your quilts. And so if you don't find what you want in this quick layout at the top, then you go to library layout and you can find a bunch more. So for this demonstration, let's just do a simple horizontal layout. Now, whenever you choose a layout, it automatically puts a 1-inch border around the outside. And if you look down at the right, it gives you the finished quilt size. This one, because it has 9-inch blocks, and a 1-inch border will be a 38 by 38 finished quilt. When you click on the next tab, which is layout, like I just did, it then gives you the choice to be able to change how many blocks you want to put in your quilt, what size the block you would like it to be, and if you want to have sashing in there. If you want your blocks to be not square, you can even make them a rectangle style. If you want to use a square and you just want to make it quick and easy to change, if you click on keep width and height equal and you change your block size, it automatically changes both the height and the width. So I'm going to change it back to 9. And I want to show you the sashing. If I want to keep all of my sashing height and width equal, I can click on that. And again, it automatically changes it. Right now, it does not have sashing around the outside of the border. If I click on include sashing next to border, it automatically adds another layer of sashing right next to the border. That is what horizontal layout is for. If I wanted to add more blocks, it's just as simple as clicking on, or you can double click on the block and you can change it with your keys. The next step it's bringing you to is borders. Here we can change what size border we would like to have. Right now, I have click all has a check mark next to it. So when I change the size of the border, it changes it for all of the sizes of the border. I can change this to, instead of all, I can change it to top and bottom. And when I click on the top and I change it, it automatically changes the bottom as well. And same thing for left and right. If I change left and right, it automatically changes both. If you want to have a different size border in each area, you can simply click off all of these block adjustments and you can change your borders to whatever you want them to be, even if they're all different sizes. So I'm going to click back on all and change it to 1 inch. It also gives you the choices of what style borders you would like to put in. You can choose from a drop-down menu here, or you can look at the top up here and you can change it up at the top. It gives you a visual look at what it is. Right now, we have the long horizontal chosen, but if I wanted it to be mitered, I could click on mitered and it automatically changes it to a mitered. There are lots of different styles through here to choose from. But what I also would like to show you is at the end, there are 2 choices that are a little bit different than just putting a border in. These are going to line up borders for you. So if I wanted to have my blocks aligned and I hit add, it is going to try and add the blocks so that they match up with lines at the top. Right now, I have only got a horizontal chosen. But when I go back over here and I choose a half drop box, and then I go back to those last 2 choices, and I click on the one that doesn't have the lines matched up. Well, wrong one, here it is. It automatically tries to match up my blocks. See how it matched up the corner blocks so that they're all in line, and all of my other blocks are now at the same distance. So I found that out recently. It's a handy little thing if you're wanting to put in several different borders and line up your corners and your blocks. So now we have our borders chosen, and I'm actually going to change this outside border to be a little bit bigger because that's normally the way I do it. Because that's the way I like it. Now, when I go to design, oh, let me show you one more thing about borders. Right now, this border that is grayed has 3 blocks in the horizontal and 3 blocks and blocks in the vertical. This one has 4. It's doing that. When I change the horizontal or I change the vertical, you can see that it gives you more blocks than those portions.
I think you have it at half drop, so it has like half on each end.
Thank you. So let me go back to regular and remove this one so it's less confusing. All right, so now we have blocks all around the outside. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how many blocks I have it designated in the border. I can change that if I wanted to, and it is changing both of them as I do this. There is, that one is tiled border. There is blocks border.
But it's not counting the corner blocks?
No, it's in between. It's this block. This is what I chose was tiles instead of blocks. See right here, this blocks one? It is meant to have 4 cornerstones and then for you to be able to change the size of the blocks inside. So now I can change and have different numbers of blocks in between the top and the bottom versus the side, the left side and the right side. So that just shows you that what you pick designates what's going to be in your block, in your border. Now, the reason I would choose this is I may want to actually drop some blocks into these areas. And I'm going to show you because I'm going to leave these odd. I'm going to make it so that these are the similar to the cornerstones, but these are not. So when I go to designs and I drop blocks in, you'll see what it does to the blocks. But we've defined the borders. You can add more borders or you can delete more borders. Insert is if you wanted to put it on the inside. Add is if you're putting it to the outside. I'll show you. If I add, it put a new set of borders on the outside. If I insert, it inserts a new set of borders on the inside of the border that you have. And each time you do something like this, it changes the size of the finished quilt in the bottom corner to indicate what your quilt size is going to be. I find that very handy because there are sometimes I'm making a baby quilt or a lap quilt or a queen size quilt, and I want it to be a certain size or better. So I keep an eye on that. All right, so once you have your borders defined, then you're going to go to design. There are some other handy things when it comes to borders over here, but let's go through these one at a time. We're seeing a lot of stuff here. I'm going to go back to borders and remove the inside border so that it's less confusing. Now I have my blocks in the center and I have blocks on the border. You can actually drop blocks into your borders as well as into your centers. But when you have a block, like I was just showing you, that is oddly shaped in your border, it stretches it to match what the size of the block is. I just wanted you guys to see that. Again, I think it'll be less confusing if I change this border just to a long horizontal and put it back to a 1 inch. Because the main thing we're looking at today is how to add your blocks in and how to add fabric to your quilt and exactly what these different choices do. So right now, I have some blocks in here. And normally when you go to it, you're going to see default blocks in there. I want to show you so that if you would like to start out with a clean slate, all you have to do is hit clear unused blocks before you start any quilts. Right now, it's not going to take these away because I have a quilt that has these in it. Oh, nope, I actually deleted that out because your sketchbook should be empty too. So if I go to the ... in the corner, I clear all unused blocks, it should remove all of those if you don't have anything made. That way you can start out with a clean slate. There is a way to also define your starting blocks as none, but that we'll show that later down the line. So now I don't have any blocks in here, so I need to get some. I'm going to open my block library, and it brings up all of these different choices for you to pick through. This set in here has a few neat ones that go together. So I'm going to choose individually to add to my sketchbook a few of these. And when I close it, they come up on my sketchbook. I want to show you how to populate every other block with a quilt block. So if I choose this quilt block and I'm going to put them in this area, this block, but I want it to fill every other one as well, I will hold down the Alt button and click in that block. If I wanted to choose this block and then put it in this block and populate every other one, I hold down the Alt button and click on that empty block. And that's the quick way to populate your quilt blocks with every other block. You can also quickly populate your quilt blocks and fill the whole quilt by holding down the Control and the Alt button and clicking in any block here, and it will put a block in every block that's in the quilt. And I can do them individually. When you look at the blocks over here, the one that is highlighted in blue is the one that's going to go into the block place when I click with my mouse while hovering over the block that I want it to go into. And then I can choose a different one and do these. I can do these all individually if I want to. Now I have all of the quilt blocks placed where I want them, I think. But should I not like it, like if I don't like this centers here, I can erase those individual blocks by clicking on Erase Block and erasing them. And then putting something different in there. Or now you can't see on these blocks because they have symmetry. So if I click on this block and I rotate it, it's going to be the same thing because it's just moving it around. Let's do one more thing. Let's go back to the library. Let's pull out an applique block. Not a motif, but an actual block. And add it to our sketchbook. So that will show up in blocks. If you look right here, we have the choice of blocks, motifs, and stencils. Stencils are what your stitching lines would look like if you put it on top. Motifs are appliques without a background, and appliques with a background are blocks. So now if I choose this block and I put it in the four corners, I can show you with rotate how you can rotate them. Also, if I wanted them all going outside, I could click on flip and flip them going to the outside. Symmetry is if you have blocks that can go in different directions. See how it changes the symmetry of them? It moves them in different directions so you can get an idea of what they would look like. That's what symmetry does. So you could click on these and look at them in different directions and maybe decide, oh, I like that, and go with that one. Eyedropper is if you have a block, and normally I would just go over here, click on the block, and then click on where I want. Let's say I want this block, and I'm going to put it where this corner is. I can eyedropper over it and then go click where I want it, and it puts it where I want it. That's what the eyedropper's for. I find the eyedrop tool is most valuable when it comes to fabrics, because sometimes you forget which color or which fabric you have in your quilt. And so it's easier just to grab the eyedropper tool and pull the fabric out from over here and put it in over here. When it comes to blocks, I don't use it that much there. And then again, this open library is to open the block library. So now we've gone over what's in the toolbar. And we have a general layout, but I don't like these colors that are in this. In this same design area, instead of having to go to the block work table and change the colors and then come back, you can actually go to fabric tools and you can choose from fabrics or colors. If you have a general color in mind that of your fabric, instead of having to import the fabric in, you could just use that. I like to actually bring my fabrics in, so I will bring them in through the image work table. So let's say I want to change the orange in the butterfly to this orange fabric. I can hit my swap colors and click on this orange, and it will change every one of those oranges to this fabric color. That's very helpful. I very rarely use spray can, but you can use spray can and you can go over top of a block and hit it, and it kind of gives you a spray can effect where it's doing some things like that. And it didn't just do the area that I was on. Like if I was on paintbrush, it would just do the area you're on. But spray can kind of blasts the whole thing and puts it in different sets of parts of the block. Like I was saying, eyedropper is very handy here because I don't know.
I have a question a minute. When you did spray can, did it just change for that block instead of the whole quilt?
Yes.
Okay,
I don't know if I have very rarely used spray can, but let's see if I hit it several times in this block, It's only doing that block. It's not doing anything else.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. I think if you're not sure about what colors and you like that color, you can go to the block and it'll kind of color it in and give you a different perspective. So if I'm in eyedropper and I have no clue what this color is because it came with the block, I can then suck up that color and you can see it, put it over here, and I can use it in different areas. Like and what it does, that was interesting. I thought it would only do the one little color. Oh, nope, I've got spray paint still on. Sorry. So when I suck up that color, it highlighted spray can, but I don't want spray can. I want paintbrush. So I can do individual. I guess because I had spray can on, it went right back to what I was using before. Or you could swap colors. And now it's kind of putting all of these different colors. So that's what eyedropper does. It grabs up the color that you're looking for, and then it goes back to whatever you were working on and lets you swap colors. Or if I'm in paintbrush and I eyedropper, it goes to paintbrush. So, fussy cut. If you have a fabric that is I don't have one in here. Let me go to paintbrush and to fabrics, and I'll find a fabric that we can fussy cut. This I can fussy cut. And I put it in there, and I'm using my control button, and I'm getting closer to that block so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to fussy cut that fabric because I want as many of the circle things in there that I can get. So see how it lets you move your fabric around? That way you can actually fussy your fabric in there the way you want to. And while we have the opportunity, I want to show you something. You see this line that's up here? That is the end of the swatch of fabric. Each one of these is a swatch of fabric. When we define what size our fabric is when we're bringing them in through the image work table, or if they're in the computer, like this is a computer, this came with EQ, this color fabric, each one of them has swatches in there. And they're defined by a block of fabric color. And it puts them end to end. That's why sometimes you're going to see this line that goes up and down or side to side if we come to the swatch bottom. So just be aware of that. But back to fussy cut. We can move this around to anywhere you want. So if you have a design and you want to fussy cut the little girls out of it, you can do that. And this is very helpful. Rotate fabric is just what it sounds like. If I go into here and I pick that fabric, it's going to look, you'll be able to tell it's rotating. And I go to rotate fabric. You see how it's turning? It's rotating the fabric around. So if the little girl I was using was upside down, I could rotate her around and she would come right side up. So now randomize. you can choose from different styles of colors that you would like to randomize. And let's just say I want brightness, and I'm going to randomize this block. Oh, it did all the blocks. So it's randomizing all the blocks in my quilt. And, or if I want to saturate it, see how it changes the colors. It's just to give you some ideas for you to maybe think out of the box with different colors. There are other choices in here that I'm not totally familiar with, but they all have to do with playing with the colors in your quilts. Okay. And open library is just to get back to your fabric library, just in case you want to pick some more colors. All right. So now I would like to talk about auto borders. Auto borders are cool if you want to add more depth to your quilt. They are already pre-programmed borders inside here that you can use. And I think it's really cool that you can add these to it. Now remember, whatever size border your is, it's going to fit to that. So if I choose this one and I put it in this 1-inch border, that's what it's going to look like. But once you put it in there, you can always go back to borders and change what size your borders are, how many horizontal and vertical blocks you have. And if I was smart, what I would do is figure out how I could make these all even. But I'm going to show you a quick and simple way to figure that out. If you go to print and export and you click on one of these blocks, it tells you exactly what size the block is. So the height of this block is 5 inches. The width of this block is 5 inches. So if I go to borders and I change it to, I said that wrong. So I should make one more block border. So I'm thinking 8 will take care of that problem for me. And then I come back to here. Oh, now it's telling me my width is 4.5, but that's a pretty good number. So if I change my border to 4.5 right here, whoops. And then I go back over to print and export and I click on the block. Now I've got all of my blocks on this outside border to be the same size. So using EQ to help you to figure those out sometimes is handy, and or you can go and do the math too. I know Carmen likes to do the math. And in my brain,
Sally doesn't. But what happens if the size border or size quilt you've created doesn't divide evenly by 4.5?
Then you're just going to have to figure it out with the math and make the size of the border be exactly the size. Like if we went back to being 5-inch, and then we came over to here, and why didn't it change? Oh, because I had 7 here. So this one says that it's 5.14. We could always come over here and make these. 5.14. Oh, but it wouldn't let me. So you just kind of have to fudge with it, Sally. It doesn't always work out, but I know we all like to work in big round numbers. So I think somehow you could come up with a compromise by changing the blocks on the inside to a different size, or taking and stepping up a little bit on your block size and decreasing the number down here. You have to fudge around sometimes. But I just wanted to give you the idea that you can always come to print and export and click on a block and it shows you the size of that block. Okay, so back to designs. And it gives you lots of different choices of border styles here. They're all really cool. So the next thing it has up here is a photo tool. So I brought in a bench picture from the library, and I need to tell you though that down here we have 3 different layers. Layer 1 is for blocks. Motifs can go on any layer, 1, 2, or 3. But normally I try and always put my motifs on layer 2 because you can use this little eye to take and hide layers. So, but we're talking about pictures right now. So I can take this picture and I can put it, let's say I want it in the very center of this quilt. So it's in layer 2, and I'm going to adjust the size of it. And I'm going to choose that block. You can adjust over here, or you can use the little corners and change it. I usually go to what's close, and then I come in and I use my little width and height here to get it to the size I want it. And then I use my access. You can grab it and pull it all around, and you can use these snapping grids. If you have it to the correct snap, I'm going to choose 4. No, I'm going to choose 2-inch for my snapping grid and see if it snaps for me. I see it didn't snap where I wanted it to. I think it's going to be harder for me to figure out a snap than it is to take and walk it over there with my accesses. So right now it's at axis 16 and 16. If I change it to 15 3/4, it walked it over right where I want it to be. So all of these are choices for you to help you to get your pictures the size you want, to get the pictures where you want them. You can use snapping grid. Taking and knowing what size these blocks are helps you to define which snapping grid you should put in there. And maybe I should have put it at 1/4 of an inch and then tried it. But I have to have it selected. Just like when we were working in the applique the last time, you have to have these snaps on or off for them to work. The reason it didn't snap for me a few minutes ago is because I didn't have any of them selected. The first one is a background grid that you really can't see. The second one is snapping to a corner with what you got. So that's why I chose it, because this is going to snap to this corner for me. The third one is to snap to the block size in the grid. Well, this is smaller than my block size, and it's actually on 4 different block corners. So that's why I'm going to choose the snap to the position on the grid, so that when I come over here, it goes right where I want it. The other options here are pretty self-explanatory. If you wanted this picture directly in the center, you would choose putting it in the center by horizontal and vertical. You might be working with several different pictures that are layered on top of each other. You can send them to the back, bring them to the front, etc. like that. You can use delete, but you can also use your delete key on your computer. Cut is just like you would know. You can cut it and paste it. And so or you can copy and paste it. So if I wanted several of these pictures in, I could hit copy and then paste. It gives me an exact duplicate. So I can put it wherever I want. You can even rotate things too. And it also has this preserve the aspect ratio when you're resizing. I wouldn't want to stretch this block like this because it doesn't look like a seat much anymore. So if I click on that and I stretch it, it's gonna, it still did it. It's supposed to preserve the aspect of the picture in the background. I don't understand why it didn't do it when I did it this way. More research. Okay, but I gave you the general idea about pictures, and pictures are in layer 2. And just so you can understand about the little eye, when I click on the eye next to layer 2, see there's still what looks like it could be there, but you don't see it. That's because it hid that picture. That comes in handy when you're working on the background and then you want to work on the applique. It kind of takes the it from being so much, like you can even do it with the layer 1. So you can see what layer 2 looks like better. So that's a handy thing. And layer 3 is for thread when you're putting your stitching on there, or for embroidery. There is different embroidery pieces in the layout in the library that you could choose from, and then you could put on your quilt. Or if you brought in a picture of your embroidery into the image worktable, then you would put it in layer 3 so that it has its own home. You can also put in text, and it will give you what it looks like on your quilt. And it's considered applique, so you can put it in any layer you want. I tend to like to put applique in layer 2. So according to this, if you hold down your shift button, it'll make you a text box. Then you can type what you like. And you can change what happens to it, whether you want it centered, if you wanted it bolder, and you can change the style of font you would like. You can also change the size of it. And And you can change the color, the fabric you want to use too. But I think you can change the fabric with fabric tools as well. And it will give you templates for it. So that's another feature in EQ that is kind of nice. So as you can see, the embroidery tool is not highlighted because neither is the border, because you can't do border anything but borders in layer 1. If I click on layer 3, the embroidery tool comes up. And here's where you can then add embroidery to your design if you'd wish to. And you can put it as whatever size you're looking for. And thread tool. Now, first, you have to have some type of design that you want to put your thread into. And I haven't used this much. It is a really nifty feature. So if I go back to block tool and I go to stencils and I take this crosshatch and I put it on there and I adjust it so that it encompasses all of the inside here. And I'm going to make it be the same size as what my block's in the center, which is 36 by 36. Now that crosshatch is exactly right, and that's what would be representing my stitching. Then I go back to thread tool. I can pick what color thread I want my thread to be. And if I click on the thread, you see how it changed it to that color? So then you could paint your thread to see if that's what stitch design you would like to have. And it, unfortunately, you have to do every single line. But that's what the thread is for, to give you an idea of what your thread would look like on top of your quilt. And Sally taught me this. If you click on hide and show patch lines, then you can actually see the thread really, really clearly. So those are the different aspects of designing your quilt. So I'm going to go back to layer 1 and I want to go over a little bit about print and export. I gave you a little taste of it earlier, but now when you click on the block, then it displays what the block size is and gives you the choices as to what you want to do. Now, this is an applique block, so it's not giving you the choices of anything to do with foundation, rotary. It's only giving you templates because when it comes to applique, pretty much that's templates. But if I click on a regular block, It's supposed to give you rotary cut too. Maybe because I have so much stuff on top of it.
Possibly because of the applique?
Well, it shouldn't. I should have saved it as several different spots. Then I could go back. Let me go back to layer 1 again. Okay, so because I went from one layer to and back to the first layer again, it's allowing me to click on this, and now it's giving me all of the different choices, templates, foundation, and rotary cut. So that if I want to know what the rotary cut for this block is, it will give it to me. It gives you the rotary cuts for each of the pieces and tells you what colors go with them. And it's just for one block. So if you have multiple blocks, you have to multiply it by how many blocks you have to get the correct number of pieces for this. And I always go into preview. I'm a stickler for it because when you go to print right off the bat, sometimes it doesn't print as nice as you want it to. With the rotary cut, that's different, but it kind of gives you an idea. It gives me everything. If you have blocks that have really, really odd shapes, sometimes it will not give you a rotary cut for that. So then you have to go to, instead of rotary cut, then you got to go to using a template or a mixture of both. You could use a mixture of both. Foundation paper piecing, it will give you an idea of what it looks like, how many different pieces it's going to do. This one isn't too bad. So it would give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strips to paper piece and then piece together for this one block. And again, I always go to preview because this is the way it would print it out for you. And then you have to tape everything together. It's so much easier to just move things around and get them on their own sheets if you can. See, like this one doesn't look like it'll fit, but if I rotate it, I can get it to fit. Same thing with these. If I rotate them, they're going to fit on one sheet of paper. And then I don't have to play with taping things together. Ta-da! The one not so nice thing about this is if you close it and then you go back to it, you got to do it again. So if you want to print,
Lynn,
yeah.
what I do is I print to it to a PDF, and then I have the PDF saved, and I can go back to that file and open it.
So from here, okay, so here's the thing, Christine. Say I did all this little work and then I went, oh, I forgot to change my printer to PDF. Then I got to go back over to here and do page setup.
Yeah, make sure you do page setup first, but then you have a file of it and you don't have to rearrange everything, especially if it's a complex foundation paper piecing or something.
Right. So this is what Christine's saying. In this first box, you can change your page setup, which is also your printer. So in here, I can go to my printer and I can change it to Microsoft Print to PDF. And then it guides you through to where you want to add a file to your computer and what name you want to give it. So I can put it in a specific folder for this project with a specific name as to what the block is. And then I have it there to print as many times as I want after I fixed it. So you have to change this setting first before you go into preview. Also, the other thing you have to do if you want to, I sometimes just want to print 4, and so I change this to 4, go to preview, fix it, and then print my 4. But you got to remember to do that before you rearrange all this. So, since we're here, let's go over this little bit about print. This, because I'm in foundation pattern, gives me the choice to redesign my layout in here if I wanted to. It gives me what it thinks would be a good layout for this. But if I decided to do something different, because sometimes it's not always as logical as our brains are, you can go to numbering and you can change your numbering around, and you can change your sections around for foundation pattern. Under options, just like any other print project, it gives you the choice to change some of the different things, like you can, instead of having color, you can grayscale it. Any of these options, if you want to print the block name or not. Sometimes when you go, when you're in here, you don't want as much to show. One of the things that's not in here right now is like an overall pattern. And that must be in my, when I'm doing applique. So sometimes it will give you an overall pattern over here, especially if it's applique. So you have a guide. On occasion, you don't need that guide. So I just get rid of it, so I'm not using as much paper. So that's what options is. It's for you to be able to change to get exactly what you want it to print out. I believe I've gone over these over here. If you want to print the whole quilt and what it looks like, you would choose quilt. You can choose yardage. And most of the time I preview this and then I look it up, see what I've got. And it gives you a general idea of the yardage you'd be using. If you just want to print just the block, templates, foundation piecing, rotary cutting. As you can see, embroidery and photo are grayed out because we're not dealing with that. I think if I put on number 2, see now, because I've got layer 2, photo comes up. I don't know why embroidery is coming up. It shouldn't until you get to layer 3. And then your printer setup, you can click ahead of time. I should get myself in the habit of doing that first off. Okay. I think I've gone over everything that comes with designing your quilt. Do we have any questions?
I have an observation.
Yeah, sure.
You said in the beginning to delete blocks that aren't being used in the quilt when
Yes,
you're looking.
when we're on the block tool and we're on blocks.
Yeah. I did that, but I didn't have a bunch of blocks I had designed in the quilt. This is just my class file, but you can't reverse that, it looks
No,
like.
you can't. So I'm saying the only
do that
time,
with caution.
right. The only time you should do that is when you're starting new and you don't want any of the blocks there. Like if I'm starting a brand new project and I want a clean slate, that's when I would do that. Like I said, there is a way to go in to your settings and set up a default no blocks and a default no fabrics, so that when you come to a new project each time, nothing's here and nothing's here.
Mm-hmm.
Where do my blocks go? There they are. But you have to go into your different preferences, and it's not under preferences. There's a different way to do it. And you basically are making a default block group and a default fabric group. So yes, don't do that unless, oh, there is one other thing. If a lot of times we don't want to do anything but put a piece of fabric in a block. Under this ... there is add a plain block. And that is just fabric. So if I take it and I put it in this block, that's whatever fabric I want it to be.
A quick question.
Sure.
How do I, like, if I put blocks in my sketchbook and then I go to another project or something, how do I keep the same stuff in the same blocks or colors in the new project?
Okay. When I go to libraries, block library, I have all of my, right down here, it says import.
Mm-hmm.
When you click on import, it then brings up, it comes to my projects box. I think it defaults to coming to the projects box. Then you can find the project that you want the blocks from,
Mm-hmm.
and click on it, and it will import those blocks into what you're doing.
Oh, great.
Let's see. And see, it's bringing up all of my default stuff because that Harry Potter only had default stuff in it. Let me find one that, where's my piano quilt? Here's my piano quilt. See all these blocks that came in?
Yeah.
Now I can say select them and add to my sketchbook.
Mm-hmm. That's how
And
you
see,
get it in there.
now they're all in my sketchbook.
All right.
You can do the same thing with fabrics too, I believe. Let's see. Fabric library, import from a project. Piano. See how it brought all my piano and music stuff in?
Yeah. That
Select
sounds
all,
good.
add to sketchbook. And when I go over to my fabrics, they're all there.
Okay.